Hello and welcome back to Ben's Boat Bramble. Today we're going to be doing a couple of odd jobs like sweeping the chimney. I might give the outside paintwork a bit of a polish as well. I'm also going to be taking down the rest of the Christmas decorations and storing them for next year. While I'm doing all that, I'll talk a bit about myself, as I haven't really done that before. It's mostly been about cruising and Bramble, so yeah. So I've just had a clean up of the inside of the stove and the glass just to clear everything, get the ash out. So now I'm going to grab my chimney brush, and it's stored underneath the cupboards. I'll show you that now, and I'll be heading onto the roof. As you can see, it easily fits together. I think my chimney was relatively clean, so I'll just see if there is anything down the bottom, but I don't think there will be much. Okay, so there was a fair bit more than I thought there would be, so I'm glad I've done it. So now that that's done, I'll get a little fire going. I'll leave that to burn down a bit and then add a few coals. And as you can see, I've got a lovely clear view of the fire now. I just thought I'd mention something that I discovered a few days ago. If you follow my Instagram page, you probably would have seen it. FYI, it's still Ben's Boat Bramble on Instagram if you wanted to follow that. So, as you can see, there are some mold spots where damp has been coming from up here and dripping down, and I didn't notice straight away. So that's something that I'm going to have to resolve. I've seen a few disposable dehumidifiers that I might try. I think some of them might be small enough to hang right there or put actually inside the wall. And then I can check it on a daily basis and see what's happening and if it's working. So I've now lifted the bed and I'm propping it up with 2 trusty logs. So now I'll just chuck some of the decorations inside. Whilst it's nice to put up the Christmas decorations before Christmas and feel all festive, I think it's really nice, a really nice feeling when you take them down as well, because the new year started and you have that clear space and fresh feeling. Goodbye little Christmas tree, until next year. And we are done. I've just seen this rather large Dutch barge style boat. So that's pretty cool. You don't see that often in central London, but because we're a bit further out and there's no locks, they're probably more common here. And it looks as though it's coming straight for me, though I'm pretty sure they'll turn in a second. Wow, there's lots of wood on the roof as well. They're well prepared. Look at that. Towing along a little rowboat as well. Nice. So as promised, I'll tell you a bit about myself. I'm Ben, I'm in my 30s, and I'm a self-employed gardener working mainly in the Camden Town Borough of London. I've been doing that since 2015, and it's going great. I don't have your standard setup. It's a green company, and I use electric cargo tricycles. If I can, I'll find a picture and put something up. I've owned Bramble for over a year now. I bought Bramble in the first week of December last year, so it's been over a year now. So I celebrated my year's ownership recently. You might be wondering how I get to work. Well, when you're in and around London, there's so much travel options. It's quite easy to get anywhere fairly quickly, as long as you're not too far out. So I'm able to move as much as I need to, as much as I want to, and still get to work. If you're not a canal dweller, you might not know that along the canals there's a lot of trains. That's because the canals were one of the main ways of transporting goods back in the day, and after that, when the motors were invented, when the motor trains were invented I should say, they started carrying things along similar routes, because the canal routes were already there and people used to getting their goods that way. So yeah, it's quite common to see trains flying past on bridges or alongside the canals, and for transport, which is pretty handy if you want to get somewhere from the canals. In my spare time, I really like to sing, songwrite and play the guitar. But more recently, I've started to make soundtracks using GarageBand on my iPhone, and I'll be using those for all of my videos because I've had a couple of copyright claims. For those of you who do make videos, you might know that on iMovies, on Apple products, you're allowed to use the songs, but for some reason copyright claims still come up, and I'd rather avoid any unnecessary copyright situations. So as I'm a musician and I write songs, I figured I'd just use my own. I've been writing songs for as long as I can remember, since I was a little boy, and for my 13th birthday I was gifted an acoustic guitar, and I fell in love with it, so I've been playing ever since. In the comments of past videos I've been asked, do I fit in the boat? Yes, I fit in the boat, but I do need to crouch a little bit. I'm quite a tall guy, I'm 6'3", and Bramble's height is not 6'3", it's just under, so I have a couple of centimeters that I could really do with. I won't be raising the ceiling or anything. I've sort of got used to not slouching but bending my knees slightly so that I have enough headroom to move around. I don't know why I like small spaces, being such a tall guy, but I really do. You might notice the flag in the background. That's the Breton flag, Breton, and it's called the Gwen Hadou. And that's where my family is from on my mother's side. I'm quite proud of my Celtic roots. My dad was Irish and Scottish but born in England, and my mother was from Brittany and France, and they're all Celtic nations. Occasionally the water gods gift you with things. So all of this wood down here is driftwood that I found in the canals. It's still quite damp. But yeah, you actually get quite a bit of things drifting down. If you haven't seen any past videos, this is Bramble, my 24-foot steel narrowboat. She's a really sweet little boat, and that's one of the reasons that I got her, that along with the colour. I did have a full repaint done in April of last year, but I kept the the design very similar, apart from the back curtain design, or what some people call mouse ears. We've sort of modernized the shape of it slightly, so it follows the contour of the shape of the boat. Over the past few months, I have found a couple of nicks in the paintwork that I will be fixing when the weather gets a bit warmer. Tiny little rust spots where the paint's been either banged or scratched. Nothing major, nothing difficult to repair, so I'll likely in spring, when it warms up a bit, I'll sand those bits down and go over with the spare paint that I was left at the end of the paint job. I've got 4 of these large bust style windows. If you follow a channel called Cruising the Cut, Bramble and I featured in that, and that is how David Johns of Cruising the Cut described the windows, bust type windows. For those eagle-eyed of you, you would have seen this little flap, and that is because you can connect the boat up to shore power. That's not something I've used. You can probably see that by the amount of spider webs in there, but if I need it and if I'm more up in a marina, that's something that I can do. I have 2 solar panels on the roof. This very large one gives a lot of power when there are clear skies, and the smaller one helps as well. So I've had very little problems with power, and I use very little appliances as well. So the main thing I use it for is USB sockets to charge my phone and for lights. The one bit of painting that I've done on the boat is the tiller handle. For those of you who don't know, this is called a tiller on a narrowboat, and this is how you steer. Of course, I wasn't going to change the name of Bramble during the paint job, but we just revamped the sign writing, and Jill of JK Boat Painting and Artwork did a fantastic job. There's lots of shading, lots of different colours in there. It's really amazing, it really pops. And on a narrowboat such as this, it's really important to have good ventilation. One, to prevent damp and condensation, but also for safety. So when you have a wood burning stove or anything that burns fuel, there is a danger of carbon monoxide, and if you don't know, that is a odorless gas that can kill you. I do have a carbon monoxide alarm on board, but it's really important to keep all your vents and things uncovered. I do have a couple of mushroom vents on the roof. There are solar panels on top, but they're clear, so the air can still move around. You can just about see it under there. So the air can still move around as much as it should. I really would like to delve into the history of M&N narrowboats. I still don't know very much about it, but on one of my Instagram posts, someone noticed that the spire on that church or cathedral is twisted, and there's somewhere in the UK that has a twisted spire just like that. I believe it's Chester, but I could be wrong. But I'm going to try and find out some of the history for future videos if you're interested. These 2 coloured lines at the back are called flashes. You have those on the front and the back. That used to indicate the front and back of the boat, so you could see clearly if someone was coming or going through a tunnel, but also if there was someone in the distance, you could tell if you need to move over for them. The colour of these varies a lot. On the front we have the light, which is for tunnels and if it gets a bit dark, and we have the horn next to that as well, which is good for warning people if you're coming around the blind bend or if you're about to go into a tunnel. It's common practice to give a blast of the horn to let people on the other side know that you're coming. And lastly, outside I have this large barge pole. I've had to use that a couple of times, as you might have seen in a previous video, when my propeller was jammed by lots of rubbish, and I had to use this to propel the boat gondola style. I've always imagined getting a narrowboat since I was a teenager, really. I used to hang around in Camden Town, where, as some of you know, lots of people watch the narrowboats coming up the locks and down the locks. So yeah, it's something that I always liked the look of, and I eventually did. I was in a position to last year, so I got a little Bramble and I've not looked back. It's become quite an obsession. As I said before, the paint job is really reflective. You can see it much more on a sunny day. It's really overcast here, and you can still see clearly. It's like a mirror, a green mirror. So it's amazing. So I'm going to try and keep that really nice and maintained. I did a bit of polishing recently, but I didn't use your standard polish. I used WD-40, which I'm sure all of you or most of you will know what that is. And you can see where I've done it, because the droplets of water, what's the word? But there's a word for when the droplets stay intact, as opposed to the other side where you can still see there's ingrained dirt and dust. Compared to that side, it's really does make a difference. So that was a little patch test, so I'm going to be using that to polish the boat. I did think I was going to do that today, but it looks like there's going to be rain soon, so I won't start that now. Every narrowboat has an index number, and that's so the CRT, who look after the waterways, can track movements of boats and make sure that all the boats are moving as much as they should. I did just move this paper along slightly a few minutes ago, but I'm going to put it back because I've just realised it's covering too much of the number. The CRT, the Canal and River Trust, have spotters who take down the numbers, and I'm sure they have some sort of mapping system so they can show where boats have been, how long they've been there roughly. So yeah, that's how that works. So I think that's enough chatting from me for this episode. If you have any questions, or you're curious about anything about myself or canal life or narrowboats, anything that I might know, just leave me a comment. Remember to like and subscribe. The next video will probably be a moving video again. I'm moving quite regularly at the moment. Most people slow down in the winter, but I quite like winter cruises because there's a lot less boats on the water. I wouldn't really ever say there's traffic, but it's nice to have a plain cruise without having to move around too much, out of the way of people. And up here there's no locks until you get to Cowley, which is still quite a long way. So yeah, it's really nice to cruise at this time of year, if it's not really raining hard or snowing hard. Since making my last video, I've started a Buy Me a Coffee account. You'll see that in the description, and that's a way for viewers and supporters to support the channel. So if you would like to support myself and Bramble, feel free to go and have a look, but you are under no obligation to do so. I noticed that on another channel that I like to watch, which is called Ben and Emily. It's another narrowboating video. They are fantastic. If you haven't seen them, go and check it out. I'll try and leave a link in the description as well. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you soon.